Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming and joining us today on our portion of the Earth Day event. We're doing climate. And I'd like to thank in advance Lynn and the Communications Committee for all that they have done to get this event going. Our presentation tonight is called Agriculture in the Classroom and Food Waste. And I think that's about all I have to say, other than if you're not speaking, could you please mute yourself? And then at the end of the presentations, we will have time for questions and answers. So Lynn, I want to give it back to you now.
Thank you, Margaret. So as well as talking about agriculture in the classroom and food waste, we are going to celebrate and acknowledge that this is ACWW Day, and lots of branches have completed Women Walk the World today, or are going to later today, or have already this month. And that's an opportunity to spread the word and the information about ACWW and collect some funds. So we just want to acknowledge that as we begin that. And of course, that's part of our conversation this evening. So our processes tonight is we're going to begin with the land acknowledgement, and we'll invite Doreen Wall in a few minutes to share that with us. We will then move into agriculture in the classroom, where Sue Hazuski is going to introduce our guest speaker, Pat Tonn. And then we'll move to food waste, and Eleanor will introduce Marie Kenny, who is our ACWW Canada Area President. And then we will have Judy Page Jones introduce Julie Dickson Olmstead to talk about food waste from another perspective. So that is our plan for this evening. There will be opportunity for questions. There will be some different PowerPoints along the way, so we'll be sharing some screens. So sit back and relax and think about some questions you might have. And we'll start with Doreen. So Doreen, if you'd like to do the land acknowledgement for us, please. So
before we begin this evening's program, we would like to acknowledge the Indigenous people of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet tonight on a virtual platform, we would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands and to give gratitude for the sharing of these lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their culture. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land home.
Thank you, Doreen. So, Sue.
Good evening, everyone, and happy ACWW Day to everybody. I would just like to introduce our first speaker tonight, Pat Tonn, who is Executive Director, BC Agriculture in the Classroom Foundation. Pat's passion is agricultural education, and she enthusiastically brings this energy to her role as Executive Director of BC Agriculture in the Classroom Foundation. The foundation concentrates on teaching students and teachers about BC agriculture and food in our province, as well as gratitude for farmers. Pat has over 20 years of work experience with the BC Ministry of Agriculture, including program development in youth leadership for 4-H and building awareness of the BC agriculture and food industry and career opportunities within it. Pat's management experience with the sector development branch of the Ministry of Agriculture, secondary school teaching experience, along with a team approach to running effective programs, is helping build new partnerships in the sector. I introduce you to Pat Tonn. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Susan. And hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go. Okay,
Wonderful. Thank you.
good. Thank you for the introduction, Susan. Susan and I go a long way back from our work with 4-H. So after 4-H, I joined BC Agriculture in the Classroom Foundation. And I want to share with you a bit about what we're doing across British Columbia and also across Canada as well, because I'm part of the national association that is Agriculture in the Classroom Canada. So as Susan mentioned, we want students to know about agriculture, how to grow things, where their food comes from, the bounty that we have in each of our provinces of food that's grown, and an appreciation for farmers and the gratitude for everything that they bring to our tables, and also the opportunity for careers in the sector. So the next screen. It's not advancing quite yet. There we go. Next screen shows you each of the different logos from all across Canada. So it might be Agriculture in the Classroom in your province, or it might be Agscape in Ontario or Ag for Life in Alberta. So they may be named differently, but we all do Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and we all do fun and engaging programs for young people. So in British Columbia, we have the BC School Fruit and Vegetable Nutritional Program with milk. So this program is particularly for kindergarten to grade 12, and it's products that we take into the classroom each week of the year, of the school year. And they not only get to taste these products together with their fellow classmates, but they also get to learn a bit about them. So there's a curriculum connection for the teachers to do an activity alongside when they're tasting the product. So this helps them really learn about the fruits and the vegetables and dairy products that come to them as part of this nutritional program. We also do a fundraiser with schools across British Columbia, and that's basically the root products that we have from our farms in the fall. And so everything from carrots to beets to onions to potatoes, you know them all. I don't have to name them. But anyway, we put them together in a bundle, and then the school students sell the bundle, and they get the rewards of 40% of the value of the bundle for their school activities or some new resources that they might need for their classroom. And the rest, of course, goes to the farmer and to the drivers who truck the product to the schools. Spuds and Tubs is a really exciting program. There's many planting programs across Canada. Spuds and Tubs is one that we do in British Columbia. And so the students plant the potatoes in large kind of round black tubs, and they have 5 of them, and they plant the seed potatoes in March. And then after spring break, they take them outside. Yes, we can do that in British Columbia. I know that's not possible in every province. And then by June, just because we choose the Warba potato, by June, these potatoes are, like you see on the right-hand side of the screen, harvested, and they're ready to do a potato party in their classroom. Lots of them invite their friends or their family or their grandpas and grandmas and have a feast on potatoes they've grown. And of course, they taste so much better after they've grown them in spuds and tubs. The Harvest Bin Project is another great one. So once they've mastered growing potatoes in a tub, we move them to a little bit bigger bins. And these bins we use on school grounds because lots of principals tell us that we can't dig up the soccer fields. So we say, okay, we'll bring in bins and we'll make them tiny farms, and they'll learn about crop rotation, about what different plants grow well together, about we have different stages. We work with them for 3 years. So we have different stages of learning, everything from adding hoops over them to last into the fall. But there's a number of different ways they can choose to use their Harvest Bin project, from salad greens to root products to flowers even. Lots of our culinary arts classes use it as a herb garden as well. Yeah, so that's a harvest bin project that they use as another gardening project. We also do the Common Ground Strawberry Project. I appreciate the start of the meeting with an appreciation for the land, like we would with our First Nations partners, appreciate where we come from at the beginning of a meeting. Well, what we're looking for is common ground. So we use a strawberry through which to teach that. So we have students match up a public school class with an Indigenous classroom in the province, and they do that electronically or via Zoom. And then they grow wild berries like they would find in the Alpine, and also cultivated berries, strawberries, that we would find on fields and in greenhouses in British Columbia. And they grow those two different types of strawberries together and learn everything about the plant and growing it and runners and all that is strawberry growing. But at the same time, they learn about the heartberry, which is the strawberry in Indigenous language. And it's used as a caring berry or as something that heals. And so it's part of the discussion that each of the students learn about when they learn about not only growing strawberries, but about strawberries and their legends. Another program we have is Ag Adventures, and that's where students can go to several different farms. The three that you're seeing on the screen on the left is in Langley at Stable Harvest Farms. In the center is in Kelowna at Helen's Acres, and on the right is here in Abbotsford. That's where I'm speaking to you from at the Pencil Patch. And so each of these farms have 14 different stations on them, and all the stations have to do with everything you need to know about agriculture and growing things. So one station may be about soil, another may be about pollination, another may be about the dairies that are the dairy farms that are common in the area. Another may be about a grassy lot and all the different things that young people can learn about agriculture. And there's some activities at each station, so they really get to know the details on each subject. And so that's a farm tour for a couple hours when their class visits. We also work with the grade 11 and 12 students in Take a Bite of BC. And so that's a culinary arts project. So our farmers make available, there's 60 teaching kitchens in the province, and our farmers make available to each of those kitchens a case of the product that they grow. So it could be anything from what you see there, mushrooms to squash to onions to tomatoes. And 5 times a year, they get a pallet of these donated products that go right to the culinary arts kitchen. And it's the students' challenge to make appetizers or lunches that they can then serve to students in their school cafeteria. So it's come a long way from burgers and fries and hot dogs. Like when I was in school, we have gourmet dishes from Take a Bite of BC. Also on the left-hand side, you see the Spotlight series. So behind every product that comes to their classroom, there is a teaching hour. So that hour could include development of a new recipe. It could include a video of the farmer and the farm, like what happens on the day in the life of a strawberry farmer. And some other information that might be fun to do, like a Kahoot or a Jeopardy game or something like that, that kind of drives the facts of that particular product home in a game with the students. So the Spotlight series also helps them learn about the commodity that they're cooking with. And we also had our home ec teachers come to us and say, well, we'd like a little bit more information too, and we think the chefs can help us. So our chef, Trevor Randall, you see him there in the picture, he's a teaching chef from Maple Ridge Secondary, and he's gone into the kitchen with Take a Bite of BC and the products and is doing, and these will be available on our video platform called Vimeo. So he's doing a series of teaching lessons on things like deboning a chicken and basic sauces and basic salad dressings and products you can do with greenhouse vegetables and how to make easy desserts. And so with BC products again. And so those are coming soon. And I just wanted to let you know that you can check out our website to see those on the Vimeo part of the website. Probably our first and most elementary program is called Planting a Promise. And it's essentially that we have the students plant a promise in the fall. The promise will be, of course, the beautiful daffodils that they see in the spring. But they learn about the different parts of the bulb, and they get to name them all. They get to figure out how they grow, make sure they put them in the ground the right way around. And then they see the beautiful daffodils in the spring. And some of the classes have really adorned the front and the sides and the back of their school in the flower beds. And so now they're actually snipping them and selling them as bouquets as a fundraiser. So it's been really an exciting project, not only for them to discover that, you know, plants grow underground, but also that they can be a business prospect as well. We do teaching weeks or weekends for teachers as well, so they can learn. That's called our Summer Institute. So we match with the University of British Columbia, and we do, you can see our Chef Randall in the top left-hand corner. He's teaching Cooking with BC Products class. In the center is a farmer educator, and he works with the teachers on farm tours. And so he takes them to a number of different styles of farms and has them get their hands dirty so they know what agriculture really is. And then on the right-hand side, we work with the teachers. That's the one of the keen teachers in the bunch that year. And she put together a lesson plan on bees and honeybees and won an award for that. So she has her award there. So it's kind of getting the teachers integrated into agriculture, not only talking about it, but actually doing it. And that's always much more constructive to take back to their class. We have resources like lesson plans, live stream tours, webinars, all available for teachers on our website, all part of the learning. So it's available to them 24/7, however they choose. Across Canada, the month of March is Agriculture Literacy Month, and we have a number of different storybooks that we take into classrooms in every province. And this might be an opportunity for Women's Institute ladies to help us out to go into a classroom and read a book on agriculture. We give you the book to read. You can read the book on agriculture and then tell a bit about your story and your involvement in the industry. Again, nationally, we really work with Real Dirt on farming and discovering your superpowers in agriculture. So that's our career-based program, all of which are very exciting for students as they delve into the tougher subjects in agriculture, everything from animal welfare to organic or not, or all the different topics that we know about agriculture. We delve into them with consideration and brainstorming. We also have GIS maps. So those are really exciting for students who are in geography. So we use agriculture as a way through which to learn all of those subjects. So Farm Explorer BC is a map that takes them around to the different direct marketing of agriculture, like farm direct marketing. So they could do a tour with their family across British Columbia and know where to stop to get fresh grown BC products. And Grow BC is also a map that maps out the province as to where the commodities are farmed. So wherever there are beef ranches in British Columbia, there's a little beef on the picture of the map that they can just click and then find out the story about beef ranching in British Columbia. This I want you to know about because we do a Great Canadian Farm Tour. That's across all of our provinces. It's happening right now between April 11th to May 30th. It's all on your computer. And so the registration is open now. If you go to the Agriculture in the Classroom Canada site and you just put in your name and they send you what day and what time we're in your province, or any of the other provinces for that matter. And you can listen to the talk with them for an hour and see different types of farming. I mean, everything from cranberry farms to greenhouses to I think there's a bee farm and there's a dairy farm and all kinds of different farms across our great nation. So thank you. That's a little bit about what we're doing in agriculture in the classroom, both in British Columbia and nationwide. And we're committed to expanding agriculture and food education in Canada. That was a quick synopsis, and I'll be open to questions or ideas at the end.
That's great, Pat. Thank you so very much. Anybody have any questions for Pat right now? Do you have a link for that Great Canadian Farm Tour, Pat? that you could-
Yeah, I don't have it handy, but if you just Google Agriculture in the Classroom Canada,
Okay,
you will come right to their front page of their website, and it's right on the front page.
okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Valerie Smith has a question.
This is such an important topic, and we've been talking about it in Women's Institute for many years as well, and when I was in the classroom as well. But do teachers opt out? Can they, or is it a mandatory part of the curriculum?
It's not mandatory in the curriculum anywhere across Canada. And so what we do is prepare all of our videos and programs, our resources, using agriculture as the way through which to learn math or science or English or poetry. So interwoven in all of our programs, our resources, are curriculum connections to all the subjects that they have to learn as prescribed courses in the province.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mhm.
Angela, did you have a question?
I do. Actually, I have two, but they're very short and they're connected. How important is the farm market system in BC? And is that part of what you talk about with the students? And the other part is the actual people who work in the industry. How often do they get to be face to face with students?
Okay, two good questions. The first one on farm markets. We work directly with the farm market associations. And so we make sure that students know through that Farm Explorer BC map, students know where the opportunities are to get farm produce directly at markets or directly at the farm. So that's our avenue. And what we do with teachers is we use kind of a scavenger hunt activity. And so students have to find, where is it that you can buy honey in British Columbia? And if you look on the GIS map and use that tool, you're able to find where you can buy honey, for example, in British Columbia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's the first question about farm markets. And the other one, sorry, remind me again so I can phrase it.
How often do the people from the agriculture sector and the different commodity groups get to be face to face with the students?
Yeah.
I guess I'm asking because here in Floresville, New Brunswick, they've had a program for decades whereby agriculture has never left the classroom, but that is a unique situation, I think. And I think it's important because it's part of how the students get to see the careers that are there.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so we have a number of different activities throughout the school year. Like, for example, I mentioned in March where farmers and ranchers and farm families can go into classrooms and read books. Again, that happens across Canada for Agriculture Literacy Month. And then also we do farm tours on a regular basis. If students can actually go out to the farms with their classrooms, see the farm, talk to the farmers, and experience farming for a day, so to speak. And if that's not possible, like sometimes the cost of school buses is prohibitive to get classes directly to the farms, then we do a virtual farm tour where a farmer literally takes his iPhone or her iPhone and walks through the farm and says, you know, this is where we feed the chickens, and this is where they lay the eggs, and this is why it's so noisy, and this is free range. And so it actually goes with around the farm with their iPhone and does a bit of a tour, and then at the end also asks the students, okay, here I am, do you have any questions? And so it's a really good interface because they're actually talking to the real person.
Awesome. Thank you.
We have a question in the chat, Pat. Is the program in northern BC?
Yes.
Right. There we go, Vicky.
Yeah, in fact, the school fruit and vegetable program goes to 1,500 schools across the province, like from Atlin right down to Victoria. So yeah, the whole province.
Cool. Thank you. All right, we'll stop there for now, and thank you very much for the information and the questions, and we may be back to you. So Eleanor, if you'd like to introduce our next presenter, please.
Hello, everyone. Today I'm pleased to introduce Marie Kenny. ACWW Area Canada President Marie Kenny is from PEI. She's a wife, a mother and grandmother, artist and author. Humanitarian work and community capacity building have involved much of her life at a local, national and international level. Previously, Marie has held leadership positions with the Women's Institute organizations at provincial, national and international levels, giving leadership as president, and for 4 years she was United Nations chair with the Associated Country Women of the World. Marie has witnessed firsthand the struggles women face, most especially in minority groups. She has strived to give a voice to those who have felt voiceless, taking the challenges they face and the solutions they raise to governing bodies at the appropriate levels. Through both her professional and volunteer capacity, she has worked tirelessly to support those most vulnerable who face injustice and discrimination. She has a passion for advocacy work and building strong partnerships. Marie has received numerous awards for her volunteer efforts, including the Adelaide Hunter Huddlers Canadian Woman of the Year, Governor General's Sovereign Medal for volunteerism, Senate of Canada Sesquicentennial Medal, the Queen Elizabeth Diamond Jubilee Medal, and the PEI Premier's Award for Craft Education. Please welcome Marie Kenny.
Which one is Marie Kenny?
Good evening, everyone, and happy ACWW Day to you. I hope that you've had a wonderful day and have been able to enjoy and participate, if not already, that you will, in one of our ACWW awareness walks, as well as fundraisers for our organization. Today, I had the joy and privilege of being involved in 2 walks here on Prince Edward Island, and it's great to be able to be out with other women and to be able to just chat about our organization and the many aspects of the work that we are doing. Today, I also want to say to you, Pat, I very much enjoyed your presentation and have been involved in agriculture in the classroom. We've had the opportunity here as Women's Institute members are invited in to read to the grade 3 children in the classroom, and I very much enjoy doing that. And my grandchildren love the agricultural tours. So thank you for your presentation. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak for a few minutes this evening on the agenda, and I thank you for allowing me to bring to you a bit more on food, but in a different perspective, where Pat was talking about producing the food. I'm going to be speaking about how we can address the waste. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a sore throat. I think it's been out in the crisp air this morning walking. But I will address how we can work together in addressing food waste. in my role and professional role of relief and development work, I seen firsthand the desperate situation across our world, where women work so desperately hard to feed their families. And so it upset me very much when I realized Statistics Canada's facts showing that 50 million tons of food is wasted every year here in Canada. And since 2018, 1 in 8 households in Canada have food insecurity. And one of the things that we can do as consumers is address food waste as an individual concern. So as part of the resolution that was passed at our Triennial World Conference in Malaysia in addressing food waste, we, as a society here in Canada, as an area, are working together to address food waste. And how we're doing that is looking at how we as individual consumers can make a difference. And so I began by calling together our coordinators from across Canada and doing a brainstorming session at what were practical steps that we could take to move forward to address this issue. And I'm very pleased that the way we're doing it is to monthly I produce and send through to all the society offices, as well as the WI Connection, a program we call Take 10, Reduce, and Rethink Food Waste. And they're very practical ideas of looking at how we as individual consumers can really think about our purchasing power, can think about the food we buy and how we prepare and what we do so that we can alleviate some of that food waste. And so it's very simple steps, very practical steps, but we're inviting people to participate. And the more you participate, the more you get excited and the more you realize, wow, I didn't think about that way before. And the first thing we did was to say, do a food waste inventory in your home. And I know some people have said, I'm not going to do that, but I encourage you to just take a bucket, just a plastic container, and over the course of a week, just put your waste in it. The waste from the food, whether it's scrapings, whether it's food that's outdated or stale, food that is in the back of your fridge that's growing some life to it that you don't want. Put that all in a bucket, and you may be surprised after 7 days how much waste you have. I know I was shocked when I did that food inventory here in our own home, and I think I'm pretty basic when it comes to not wasting. But really, it's helped me to rethink in my cooking plans. It's helped me to rethink in my purchasing when I go to a grocery store. I'll use an example. I've come from a large family, raised 4 children. And so when I go to the store and I see, I'll use romaine lettuce for an example, on sale, 3 heads of romaine lettuce for we'll say $3.99. Ooh, that's a whole lot cheaper than buying one or buying a package. So I'll buy that romaine lettuce, and then I'll buy some tomatoes and cucumbers, things, thinking of this delicious salad I'm going to have. Well, after I've eaten salad for a few days, then I don't want to see it anymore for a couple of weeks. And so what happens is 2 of the 3 lettuces goes to waste. And I may as well bought a small individual salad and enjoyed it for a couple of days. So it's just those little things that sometimes we need to think about. Peelings from your vegetables. They make a wonderful stock if you wash your vegetables really well and put them in with water, and it makes a lovely beef stock when you drain it. And rather than just throwing them out. Or maybe, like me, you have a grandchild where they have a bunny rabbit, and instead of me throwing out the scrapings from carrots, I save them now and send them home in a container with her. The other things that we've looked at is practical ways of looking at your refrigerator and encouraging you to move the food to the front by their best before dates, so that what you see is visual and you use that up more quickly. Because when things get back to the back of the refrigerator or the cupboard, they sometimes, out of sight, out of mind, becomes what happens. small actions can make a significant difference. And it's important for us to take those actions as individuals and to cut back on not only our personal food waste, but also how we can have conversation with others and ask them about maybe there's a way a neighbor and you could look at purchasing something together if it's a large quantity. For ourselves here as a family with 2 daughters that live in the island, rather than buying small packages of potatoes or carrots or rutabagas, we buy the big ones directly from the farmer's market and then divide that. And so there are numerous ways. Another thing that we've done is done a month on thinking about the labeling that's on your food, the best before dates, knowing and understanding that best before dates, packaging on dates, use dates, and expiry dates all have a different significant meaning. And it's important for us to know what those dates mean, not only so that we do not can use food that is outdated and unsafe to use, but also realizing that just because it has that best before date on it doesn't mean it can't be used. I'll use milk for an example. If you have the expiry date on your milk, and you can drink it a day later, it hasn't gone sour. But then if it goes sour over a couple of days later, that you've forgotten it on the fridge door like I do, it can be used to bake it into baking biscuits or muffins or something like that. And if you can't use those right away, pop them in the freezer and they come in handy for another time. Another thing that we've thought about is looking at food storage. When you store that fresh food that you've bought, food is really expensive in our grocery stores now. And when we buy things, how we store them is very important. And I'll use a couple of examples. Like if you take and wrap the tips of bananas with foil, then it helps that banana to be fresher longer, to stay fresher longer. Then as the banana goes soft and is less appealing in a fruit salad or to eat just as a piece of fruit, mash it up and put it in your freezer for smoothies or for in muffins or banana bread or something. It's delicious that way. Washing and cutting the tips off of kale or chard or lettuce or different herbs and putting them actually in a glass of cold water helps them to stay fresh longer and also adds life to lettuce that is starting to wither in your fridge. The challenge I encourage each one of us is just to think a little bit about our food and how we don't want to waste that blessing that we have of good, healthy food, and that the farmers have worked really hard to produce for us. And as we become more excited and more aware of the differences we can make, then we begin have those conversations with our neighbors, our friends, and share the knowledge and the experiences we have, and maybe glean from them some things that they have learned as well. Over the course of the last few months in talking to different people about food waste, I know I've learned a lot. And one thing was, not to be afraid when I go out to eat at a restaurant with my husband to say, do you have half portions? Because I don't have a huge appetite. And some servings are so big that it's always waste on my plate afterwards. So I'll ask now do you have a half portion? Or do you have the seniors menu? I'm not too proud to ask for the seniors menu. Or do you have a takeout box where you can take something if you've got half a sandwich or something left over, you can take it home and have it from your takeout box the next day for lunch. The challenge, I think, is to think about our food and how we can create less waste and be more excited about ways that we can use our leftovers, whether it's using leftover meat in a sandwich or making a casserole or being creative in different recipes. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a nutritionist, home economist, and chatting with her today and saying, casseroles seem like such a large amount of work, and just brainstorming in ways that we can use leftovers to make casseroles that are delicious and nutritious. And sometimes when you make them and you make a big quantity, divide it in half and take half to a neighbor or a friend. And it'll be a double blessing for both you and for her as you have that nice visit and have an opportunity to share good food. The aim is to just do our best, the best we can, and trust that the best we do, no matter how small, can make a difference, not only in our own lives and our purchasing power and the money we save, but our thumbprint of how we can protect our environment from the gas emissions from wasted food. And we'll in that way be protecting our world and making our world a better and safer place for generations to come. I thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit about this program that ACWW is working on, and I thank you as society members across Canada for the work and the way that you are embracing this program, and also the way that you're sharing the knowledge with others, because it's so important. If we work together to achieve even just a small difference, will make a significant change. So if you have any questions later, please do not hesitate to ask me. But I also would invite you, if you're not receiving the information, if you are not receiving that monthly Take 10, then I'd ask you to please send me an email through my ACWW account, which is on the ACWW website. I'll put it in the chat this evening as well, and I'll make sure that I send it directly to you, because it's important for I don't know who gets those things when I send them to society offices. I hope the information is getting out, and I know the coordinators are working hard at sharing the information as well, and FWIC through WI Connection is sharing, and I very much appreciate all that. But if you're not receiving it as an individual, I'd invite you to please let me know. So thank you so much for the time this evening, and I look forward to maybe some questions later.
Thank you, Marie. That's great. And it's wonderful to see the connections that we have from a resolution that's passed internationally and how it can apply to each and every one of us here in Canada. So I think we'll have Julie speak, and then we'll come back and do food waste together. So Judy Page Jones, could I invite you to introduce our next speaker, please?
Evening, everybody. I'm going to Julie Dickson Olmstead. In her capacity as a strategy leader in the grocery world, Julie's role as a decision maker, strategist, brand ambassador, senior advisor, and tactician, interesting and unique. With over 30 years of senior level experience in communications, public relations, and marketing, Julie has led teams creating strategy, enhanced brands, and produced tangible results for a variety of retail and nonprofit organizations in British Columbia. She is passionate about food and was instrumental in the development of BC's Agriculture in the Classroom, BC's School Fruit and Vegetable Nutritional Program. Julie is dedicated to spreading BC's incredible food and agriculture story and those in the community. And we'll let Julie tell her story.
For including me in this meeting. I really appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay? Oh, I'm spotlighted now. I'm much larger. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you, Julie. So
just a little bit about me, and then I've got a few slides I'll pop up on the screen if that's okay, and hopefully the video works on the first one. As you heard in my bio, I've had the privilege of working with BC Ag in the Classroom Foundation for probably going on 20 years now. I started when I was 10, working with the leadership team there and the various ministries and government to put together the school fruit and vegetable nutritional program, among other things. And it's been a privilege to feed or be a tiny, teeny little part of feeding healthy, locally grown BC food to our kids for the lifetime of a child now, right, Pat? So I do a lot of work now. I worked for one of Western Canada's largest Western Canadian food retailers for quite a few years. And I do work now in both sustainability systems and food systems across the country. I sit on the National Food Policy Advisory Council, and I sit on a few boards and support a few different food relief, food rescue, and sustainability charities across the country. So I see it and do work in primarily right now BC and Manitoba in that regard. So I've got a bit of some additional information that I can add to Marie's wonderful presentation on food waste already, and we can compare notes at the end and hopefully have a bit of a time for any kind of a chat about that. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Hopefully I show you the right one. Can you see that? Anybody? Yes, I saw a nod, so I'm going to take that as a yes. I'll try and I'm hoping that when I play this, you can see it. I don't know if you need to hear it, but so this is a little 45-second clip on the sort of what's going on with food waste on the national or global stage. Can you hear that? Just have to figure out how to get out of it. Let me go back to my screen. Oh, hang on. There you go. So that was the global context. I did not make that video, but I saw it a few days ago and I thought it was a good one. So I thought I'd kick it off with that. In Canada, as you heard Marie mention, the top note stats are 58% of food produced in Canada is never consumed. It says on this slide, 1 in 7 Canadians face food insecurity. The stat as of March 2023 for I think the 6 months prior was we're now up to 1 in 5 Canadians experiencing food insecurity, and they're predicting that will be 26% of the population by the end of the year if things keep going the way they're going. And at the same time, food waste contributes to about between 8 and 10% of greenhouse gas emissions in the world, just due to the way we discard the waste, which is actually 4 times more GHG than in the aviation industry globally combined. Just to let that sink in for a minute. There's a significant lost opportunity in that only 4% of edible surplus food is actually rescued in Canada. And Canada is actually the only one of the only G20 countries in the world that does not have at this point sustainable food loss and waste tracking to report on as a nation. So we have some work to do. I just popped this up on the screen just relative to the food insecure in our country to try and just paint a picture of how many visits and volume that is. And the stats line up. The good news is, and one more, just to give you a picture of sort of where the loss occurs along the value chain. You can see that 21% is at the consumer level. So certainly the place that every individual, as Marie mentioned, can make a significant impact in your buying decisions and your consumption behaviors. But there's also significant opportunity to rescue food at the manufacturing level, the processing level, and then through the value chain to retail stores and restaurants and so on. So there's a lot of work being done on that. The good news is I participated in a conference in February where Farm Credit Canada undertook the project of trying to aggregate the amount of contribution that the food industry in Canada is making to addressing these issues, including food rescue. And they were able to aggregate a total of 143 million meals that were generated by industry along the value chain in 2023 to start to alleviate that. But just to put a fine point on it, when you combine that with or compare that to the number of individuals that are accessing feeding supports in the nation. That still only actually amounts to about 6% of the need being satisfied. So we have a ways to go. We have so the good news, there is lots of work underway. I popped this slide up when I was listening to Marie to give a little love to my friends at National Zero Waste Council, where I sit on the management board. If you haven't heard of this, it's also another place you can go as individuals to see tips and tricks and recipes and inspiration around ways to minimize food waste at the household level. So that's a campaign that's been in Canada for about 4 years now, I think. Really neat content, actually. Great resource for folks to share and learn. There's also quite a number of regional food recovery networks that have set up over the course of the last, I will say, probably 8 or 9 years that I've been involved, that are connecting actors along the value chain with one another to share and exchange surplus food, not only for donation to folks in need, but also where there's market opportunity to take surplus from one area and create a buying market for those who could make use of that food, either for upcycling or meal creation for repurposing, or maybe selling back into a school system, for example. That really takes a different look at how we can collect and redistribute and aggregate that food so that we're putting it to its best and highest use always, and ideally with commerce involved, because nobody can grow and sell food for free. There's lots of global calculations now being done on the impact from a climate change perspective on doing the work, the harder work of putting food to its best and highest use, which makes, like, as I mentioned before, a significant difference in the overall climate impacts that we can make just in this lane alone. And then just to bring it to a full circle, this is an example. Flourish is an example of of one of those partnerships that I was speaking about, where this organization is based on Vancouver Island, and they actually work in partnership with the Mustard Seed Food Bank there to BC Agriculture and the Classroom Foundation actually on the other end to gather, curate, and then prepare meals to be sold into schools on the island as part of their school food program. That allows them to have curated meals for each of those children every day, and drawn from sources that are either rescued surplus food inventory in combination with the healthy locally grown fruits and vegetables that PAT's program can provide. So we're bringing the best and healthiest product options available to those kids, with all the right thinking that's put to it, but that amplifies local agriculture and drives down surplus being discarded altogether. So it's a fairly new program. It's running over 2 districts, and I think they're impacting 1,250 kids a day with a beautiful, healthy scratch cooked meal that they can enjoy. That's sort of the result of the bounty of that effort together. So it's really just a neat example of the stories that we don't always hear about, that we don't get a chance to tell each other about. So I thought that when I was here, I have the opportunity to give them a shameless plug for the collaboration that they're working on. And so I guess my message would be, sorry for my dogs, and the final message would be that this kind of work is systems challenges. There's systems thinking involved, but it takes a network. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think this is a great example of how we can go farther together if we are all paying attention to it. So I'm super grateful to be able to be here today and listen to your perspective, and that there are wonderful people like you out there in the world that are actually talking about being the change. I think it's amazing. It's nice to know you're there, actually. So thank you for that. And that's it for my presentation. I probably went fairly fast because I tend to do that, but I will stop sharing and turn it back over to you. Unless I stop sharing already. There. Are you off my screen? Did I do that right?
Yeah, you're fine. Thank you very much. Julie, that was great to give us another perspective on how this food waste conversation fits into climate change and what we need to do with greenhouse gas emissions and how we can reduce it. I remember when we started composting, seems like not that long ago, and we were happy to get the compost into the compost and not not thrown away or not thrown in a garbage. And now we have to take that next step and reduce what we throw away. So all those conversations are very helpful on those lines. So does anyone have any questions for Julie or Marie, or if you want to go back to Pat, then you have a couple of options here. So Vicky, you have a question?
It's Jill.
Jill, sorry, look and say that doesn't match.
Well, it's Vicky's computer. We're here together. I've got a question about health inspectors in BC seem to have a lot of control over food that can be used. For example, we have a camp here, and they're not allowed to grow home produce and use it at the camp. The produce has to come from a grocery store. And how can that be overcome?
Good question.
That is a great question. I would have to look at I'd have to look at it to understand it, but I think the short answer is there's always a way. I think I often go to these meetings and say I'm either the chief troublemaker or director of common sense. And usually when someone puts a question like that to me, now I want to go figure out the answer. But I know that in the donation space, for example, there was a lot of work done to modernize the reg to allow for the industry to be able to participate in the donation of food to charities without risk of liability. And I wonder if that similar thinking could be applied to your question. I'd have to look at it. I'd be happy to look at it. I would have to better understand it, but I think where there's a will, there's a way. It's often just a matter of communicating the technicalities to the health inspectors. But I will say I've spent more of my life than I want to think about dealing with the effects of health inspectors, and they do have the hammer. So, and by that, I mean, they have jurisdiction over the operation of safe food facilities over everybody, including the premier. Like, you can't go around them. So it's better to work with them than to try and find a way to avoid that, because they can shut you down. So it's equal parts interesting and risky. So I think anything can be done, but it's probably a good idea to take a look at it again.
Thanks, Jill. Then Selm has her hand up.
Hi, good evening. My question is, I recently was at an eco conference and there were two very different opinions. One is what a lot of people are saying is that greenhouse emissions and everything is really bad. And then another set of documents was saying that we need more. It's not that we have too much. It's not that we don't have enough. I'm wondering if you have studied both sides of the stats and you're still saying that we're doing too much.
That was a question for me, or does someone else want to take that?
No, that was a question for you.
Okay, so I do not have a degree in any of this, so I'll start there. What I can tell you is that all of the scholars that I have listened to and all of the research that I have looked at has given me confidence to be able to say that I think the greenhouse gas emissions are contributing to climate change and the overall warming of our climate. And I live in a part of the country where we have seen for every year since 2017 the effects of climate change on our agriculture community and our communities in general, either through floods or fires. And I've witnessed and been part of the rescue efforts, sometimes for multiple weeks at a time, to try and get our little farmers back out from underwater, through to and including getting our roads back open so that we could move food through to just feed the general population. So I would say that I am not an expert in the science behind GHG calculations, and I'm sad to say that I'm somewhat of an expert in emergency response related to climate disasters. And so I think anything we can be doing to mitigate the risk that we may inadvertently be contributing to that, we should probably do. And I would lean to the side of err on the side of caution as far as which way I swung my opinion. But anything I can do to stop another fire from burning all summer, I'll try and give it a go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking. It was a good question.
Thanks, Julie. There's one in the chat, Michelle from Ontario. Has upcycling been suggested for use for a national breakfast program for schools? Do you or Pat know anything about that?
Yeah, Pat, do you have any comment? I can add some comment to that.
I think you have the voice at the national level there, Julie, with your involvement. Yeah.
Okay. So if you mean by upcycling, do you mean like food rescue? Is that what you're asking about? Or are you thinking more like upcycling of products to be converted? Because I think the answer to both is yes. Actually, food rescue is certainly being contemplated. Lots of food banks are actually, and other food rescue organizations are conducting that work. I know that in Ontario, there's a neat answer. The Toronto, I can never remember the Toronto Student Services, I think it is, Toronto School Services. Catherine Parsonage is the leader. They actually have a neat partnership where they work with, they ripped off our model from a distribution point of view, but they actually procure produce for their schools. I think she told me a few weeks ago that they're at, I think that they were serving 88 schools and 15,000 kids or something. The first pass they did in September, but they've been doing this for 20 years, feeding kids in schools. And I'm going to get those numbers wrong, but it was a lot. And they partnered with Second Harvest, who's a food rescue organization, to help them actually with the distribution of the food into the schools every day. So they're actually, not only are they able to leverage potentially wasted food or surplus food as part of their buy, but they're actually also working in partnership with the food rescue organization to move the food around efficiently and then overall bring down the costs that are involved in the procurement and the shipping and distribution of that. And that's similar to some of the pilot work Pat's done in BC, partnering with one of our food rescue organizations similarly, to where the model is a little bit different in terms of how we pick up and distribute food from which part of the value chain. But the idea being to leverage the collective interests and sort of common work that is done in moving food around and really leveraging the food systems and the food available to feed more kids that are hungry in schools every day and bring down those costs accordingly. So I think so. And over in BC, we also have companies like there's one, oh gosh, I'm going to forget their name. It's Sustainable, who make cookies and banana bread mix and pancake mix and other items now that are school food oriented, and they make it from spent grain, for spent barley grain and beer grain actually. But it's really good, and they're actually in full upcyclers, and they're actually on shelf in, I think, all over the country now. They've managed to do quite well for themselves over the last few years. So we're an innovative little corner of the country, but we're doing okay. Banana bread and apples. There you go.
Sounds good. Thank you, Julie. Any other questions? Comments?
Hey, Lynn. Can I
Yes,
add one?
Monica, yes.
So I guess not really more so a question, Julie. But I was wondering, I'm currently looking at developing a nonprofit organization in my community that kind of looks at sustainability. So kind of a piece of that is food waste. And I was wondering if you would be interested in having a conversation just so I can pick your brain.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat. You can call me anytime, for sure.
Thank you. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
This from Nova Scotia. Any other questions or comments? Okay, this has been recorded, and we will eventually put it up on our FWIC Canada channel that we have on YouTube, and to join some of the other videos we've done there. So don't look for it tomorrow. that it will be put up in probably the next week or two. Yeah, let's be realistic. It'll be at least 2 weeks, so I'm away for a few days. Margaret, President of Federated Women's Institute of Canada, is also with us, and I'll let her have the last word. Margaret.
Oh, thank you. I would like to thank our guest speakers, Pat Tonn from the BC Agriculture in the Classroom, from spuds to in tubs to planting a promise in the Vimeo series. I found your presentation to be very enlightening, and I will definitely be looking at some of those Vimeo series. Marie, ACWW Day today, so happy ACWW Day. Food waste and food security, I know, is top on the ACWW list. And I really enjoyed some of your tips, like the foil on the bananas. I was looking at my fridge this morning because it is recycling day for me, and a lot of food went into the tub, and I was thinking, got to change that. So thank you very much for your tips on that. I'm going to do the changing my fridge to have the best before dates in the order of, because that's a really great tip. I really appreciate that. Julie, National Zero Waste and the Council and climate impacts. You have so many interesting things to talk about there, and there's a lot of advice that you have given us, and so thank you very much for that as well. And I just want to say something that the WI members do, and it goes back to your closing with the African proverb. So if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, work together. And I think that's what the WI members do very well. So I want to thank everybody for that. But I do also want to remind you that tomorrow's income tax day and everything is due, but it's also the last day of the early bird for our national convention registrations. On May 1st, it goes up from $375 to $425. So if you get a chance and you haven't registered and you want to take advantage of the early bird registrations, you can still do it by registering online and sending us your e-transfer. Anything postmarked before or on or before April 30th will be considered as an early bird as well. I want to again thank everybody from coast to coast to coast that has joined us. It's been a wonderful presentation, and I think that we will all take a few really important lessons with us. So thanks again.